Alright guys, not sure if you can hear any of this, but I'm out taking bunches of photos of these locomotives that I spotted here from BNSF. And of course, I got tons of photos to show you guys. I just wanted to get a quick video using my camera. Beautiful car they got out here. Pretty dirty, pretty beat up. Been used, of course, a lot. It is a railroad, of course, right? Got some ES44 DCs, got some ES44 C4s. Got an ET44 C4 down there. Sorry if I had you guys off camera or in the wrong spot. Got an ET44 NS motor right there. I'm shooting this guys on my mirrorless camera. I'll show you guys a picture of it one of these days. It's not a super fancy camera. It's just a pretty good. Can you guys hear that? If I'm guessing correctly, that's going to be the startup sequence for this locomotive. You hear how long that bell is ringing? Rings for quite a while. Bell just went off. Now the motor's starting up, if you can hear it. Scared the hell out of me. That right there that you just heard was the air compressor, the air dryer spitting out some of that excess moisture. Now this motor, the 6803, just start up. So that sequence is up, kind of explaining to you guys in previous review videos. That bell kicks on, it rings for about 30 seconds to a minute. During that time, it's priming the fuel starter pump so that it gets ready to pump a lot of fuel into the engine. And then once that primer has primed enough, it then kicks the motor on and it starts the motor, and then that knocking kind of rumbles a little bit. As it gets faster, the motor is turning over, it turns over, then the motor is completely started. But I definitely want to show you guys this ET44AC NS. You know, I'm not big on foreign power, but whenever I can find some, I'll definitely try to shoot a couple photos of it. Of course, I can't get inside for you guys. That would be trespassing, and I'm not doing that. I'm on the street next to the power, public street, so no one's in any trouble here. I just wanted to show you guys. I already took a bunch of photos of this power. I didn't get many photos of the power down there. As you guys can see, there's a lot of bad walking ways down in here. You may or may not be able to see. But I did get a lot of photos of the power that I just showed you, and definitely lots of photos from this power as well. You know, we're gonna take a walk down here and check it out anyways. I'll walk around the puddles. We'll take a look at this. Got some rail cars here, some rolling stock for the railroad. Got your handbrake right there. Let's zoom in a little bit. You got your handbrake right there. You got your retainer valve that's right there in the center. Deep inside there, you have the control valve for the car, which is the brain of the car. Which, let me see if I get my finger in there. The control valve is right there. I know it's kind of, my finger's kind of blurring it, but that's the control valve. That's what the brain of the car is. Of course, to the right of that, right in here, is the air tank. One side is the emergency reservoir, the other side is the equalizing reservoir, or the service side, when an engineer applies pressure or sets air to the car, which is releasing air, which is setting air on the car to slow it down. Let me back out here. Sorry about that. Some more power down here. See if I can take a picture. Oh, I can't take a picture while I'm recording. But yeah, as you guys can see deep in there, maybe a little bit better lighting this time, maybe not. But that's the control valve. That's the air cylinder, left and right side, emergency valve, service side. Right there, the little doodad that has a little handle pointing down is a retaining valve. Of course, guys, that is the handbrake. You have your angle cock right there, your air hoses. Let's look at this locomotive real quick, look at the hoses on it. So that hose right there with the yellow handle, that is your MU cable. Right now it's plugged into the hot on the right side. It should be plugged into the white port, indicating that there is no locomotive behind it, because a lot of times what people don't know is a locomotive that has the MU cable plugged into the hot. Sorry about that, you guys couldn't see that. A locomotive that has that MU cable, that red, you may or may not be able to see it, it's right there. That cable that's plugged into the hot, which is red, still is running power through that receptacle and into the cable, which over time can burn that cable out if it just sits and sits and sits and doesn't get plugged into another locomotive. So best practice is to plug that MU cable into both the white ports, unless it is of course MU for another locomotive. Real quick, talking about the hoses on the locomotive. The first one on the far left is your apply and release. So when the engineer is applying his independent brakes, that is where the pressure is going to flow through. Next to that is your actuating line. So when the engineer sets pressure or puts a set on the train, on the cars in on that train, he would bail off or actuate, and that would be the air that runs through that hose. Sorry about that. Would run through the second hose, and the very far one, which is your main reservoir. So main reservoir on the previous locomotive that I showed you were those big giant air tanks. You can kind of see them down there. Those are the main reservoirs of a locomotive. So when a locomotive is pumping a train up full of air, getting it back up to 90 psi or whatever they need it to be set at, most of that air is coming from those main reservoirs. We'll talk about that once we get close to one, but I just want to show you guys that so you see what that looks like. Of course, here's the 5125. Let's walk around this here puddle. Still seeing this beautiful locomotive as you hear it rumbling and purring here. Check out some of that truck detail they got down in there. Of course, on this locomotive, they left the doors open. Hope no one's in there squatting. Looks like this locomotive has been used quite a bit. Got some, looks to probably be salt. So it's probably been up north or in the Midwest somewhere. This is the Gorgeous Locomotive 4990. Of course, most of you guys will probably get this video on Instagram first, because of course, as you guys know, those who follow me there get sneak peeks. This happens to be one of them. Get some of that good MU action there. As you guys can see there, that red is plugged into the red on the other locomotive. I know it's dark, but it's literally straight in front. So let me see if I get my finger. There's the red, and then there's the red on the other locomotive. I know it's hard to tell. I'm not going to get too close because I don't want to get in trouble. So here's an ES44C4. Here's that C4 truck. That good detail in there. You got your brake, you got your pistons and your air cylinder right over here. And on that side, you got your weight management system, which lifts up, literally lifts up that wheel. Not so it's floating, but lifts up so that it's less pressure on that wheel, so that it's putting more pressure on the front, on the number 1 and the number 3 axle, so that that locomotive can get a little bit more traction. So, as I was talking about earlier, those main reservoirs, right? This right here, these are those main reservoirs. So when a train is pumping up, or a locomotive is pumping up a train full of air, this is where majority of that air is going to come from. Granted, that locomotive has a, what do you call it? It has a compressor that's located in that area near the radiator. It has a compressor that is also compressing air and pumping it into the main reservoirs. From the main reservoirs, it is then going to the brake pipe, and from the brake pipe into each and every single car in that train to pump it up full of air so that that train can then begin to move and do what it needs to do. Set out cars, pick up cars, go from point A to point B. But kind of an unprecedented, kind of a close-up look on some locomotives from the railroad. And here's that ET44C4. Oh, this is the ES44. I thought this was a Terra 4 Gevo. That's the newer handbrake on the newer motors. You know, it doesn't have, I can't remember off the top of my head, but this one doesn't have the manual lever that you turn. This one just has either you hand tight it or it's turned automatically. So we'll continue on down here. Looking at these gorgeous locomotives. And here's the 8366 in all of its glory. Of course, there's a derail in case the power rolls out. It hits the derail, goes on the ground. Choo-choo doesn't roll no more until someone helps it put it back on the track. So real quick, guys, remember I was just talking about hot and hot? So that's your MU cable. That red cable hanging from the anti-climber right there on the nose, right below the ditch lights. That red cable, as you see, is that red plug. That's the hot plug. Red, hot. Let's just call it like that so you guys understand. When a locomotive is MU'd, that red cable and that red plug, that cable will be plugged into that red plug on one locomotive, and then the same cable is run to a different locomotive and is plugged into the red or hot plug on that locomotive, so that the locomotives can communicate with each other and do what the lead locomotive wants to do. In this case, this happens to be the lead locomotive. As you guys can see, there are other locomotives in this consist. This is the lead locomotive. So this locomotive tells all the other ones what to do. And how does that happen? Through that cable right there. Through that cable, the lead locomotive tells every other locomotive what to do, how to act, how much power to put down, how much dynamic braking to put down, etc. It controls the headlight on the rear locomotive, so that, of course, you have a marker on the rear of the train or the rear of that set of power. Didn't mention dynamic braking all too much. Right up there are your dynamic brake housings for your dynamic brake fans that spool up, that give you that kind of a sound when your locomotive is running down the track, right? And guys, that's pretty much it. We're gonna walk back through this, back by this power. Let me make sure I'm clear. I am clear, okay. Gonna walk back by this power. I'm gonna get in my vehicle. I'm gonna get in my car, get up out of here so I can post this video up on the gram for you guys to see. As you guys can see, I enjoyed myself this morning, this very early morning. Bright sunny day here in Califuego. Got some power for you guys to see. Awesome. Not too often you get to see this much power hanging out, chilling out, waiting to get used. But we had a moment and we took advantage of that moment. So guys, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm not going to be talking a whole too much unless I see something that I want you guys to see. And that'll be that. Actually, you may or may not be able to see, but right there in the front center is that front platform light that Scale Trains has been putting on all their locomotives. So in case people who are wondering, why do they put that there? Because I've never seen that on a locomotive. There's that light in the flesh on that locomotive. It is there. It's always there. It's always on. Unless that locomotive is dead, meaning it has no fuel, and or the knife switch is let down. Here's a pretty decent look at a handbrake on a locomotive that's not applied. Right? As you can see there. This one is not an automatic where you can it can automatically turn it on and tighten it. But good chance someone came out here and was messing with this power. As you've already seen, half these doors are open. So it's a good chance someone came out here and was messing with this power and released the handbrake, trying to be silly for no reason. But that's that. And actually, on another side note, may or may not be able to see it in there because it's pretty dark. But you got the branch pipe cutout cock on this car. And yes, that is what it's called. Like just like right there, it's called the angle cock. That right there, that little lever right in there, it's called the branch pipe cutout cock, which turns this car's braking off. So as you guys can see down here, that's obviously the wheel. You have the bearing cap, the truck itself. Right in here is the brake shoe, which is behind the truck. You may not be able to tell, but there is no more brake shoes on that car. So mechanical personnel or the conductor, if he knows how, come on out, look at it. Oh, we need new brake shoes. Okay, put some more brake shoes on. Not that hard of a thing to do. But of course, we got these cars here. And yeah, that's gonna be about it, guys. So like I said, hope you enjoyed this little look here at some locomotives on the railroad. For you NS fans, I know you guys were loving that. That NS guy there, ET44AH, was it? I know it's ET44, I just don't remember what the letter of it was. The last two letters, AHC4. It's not a C4, so I can take that out. The C4 would have that idler, and it doesn't have that idler there. So it's an ET44, I'm gonna say AH. I think that's UP. It's an ET44AC, okay. One day, someone will have to remind me, but let me just throw this out there. Something that probably no one ever knows in the modern railroading hobby, because it's really not, you don't really need to know because it has no bearing, no effect. But these ET44AC motors, any locomotive that has that is an AC locomotive, more than likely has 8 dynamic brakes on it. What does that mean? So each wheel has a traction motor on it, right? Normally, most locomotives have 8. I think I just said that. Most locomotives have 8, but these AC locomotives have 10. Why is that? I don't know. Maybe they're just a little bit stronger. The system in it is a little bit smarter, a little bit better, so therefore it's a little bit stronger. But typically each traction motor gives you a dyno and a quarter about. So if you got 4 traction motors, that gives you about 5 actual dynos. Sometimes you can get a little bit more out of them, maybe 1.5, 1 3/4, just depending on the age and model and make of a specific locomotive. But guys, that's it for me. I showed you guys all this power. Here we are back again with the 6402, and I am done here now. So hope you guys did enjoy this. We'll talk more about dynos at a later date. If you guys still want to know about it, I can get you some information on it. And hope you guys have fun with this. All right, I'm out.